The alarm screamed across the orbital defense platform. Captain Han Dae-won ran to the command center, his heart pounding. He had been a soldier for 20 years, but he had never heard this alarm before. It meant only one thing. They were here. Report! Dae-won shouted as he entered the bridge. Lieutenant Park Ji-woo looked up from her console. Her face was pale. Sir, we have 300 contacts entering the solar system. They appeared near Jupiter 10 minutes ago. 300. Dae-won felt his stomach drop. Earth's entire defense fleet had only 43 ships. He walked to the main display screen and stared at the red dots spreading across the map like a disease. What are they? He asked, though he already knew the answer. Valkyrie Empire, sir. Their largest invasion fleet ever recorded. The Valkyrie Empire had conquered 47 worlds in the past century. Every species they met had two choices, surrender or die. Most chose surrender. The few who fought were wiped out completely. Now it was Earth's turn. Dae-won touched the communication panel. All stations battle ready. This is not a drill. He paused, then added, May God have mercy on us all. Across Earth and its orbital stations, millions of people watched the news with growing fear. The Valkyrie ships were massive, each one the size of a city. They moved slowly but steadily toward Earth, like death itself coming closer. Admiral Choi Yuna sat in the command center deep beneath Seoul. Around her, dozens of officers worked at their stations, trying to find any way to stop what was coming. She was the supreme commander of Earth's defense forces, and right now she felt completely helpless. Admiral, the first engagement is beginning near Mars, an officer reported. Yuna watched the screen. 12 Earth ships moved to intercept a group of Valkyrie vessels. The human ships were fast and well armed, but they looked like toys compared to the alien warships. The battle lasted 30 minutes. When it was over, all 12 Earth ships were destroyed. The Valkyrie fleet had not lost a single vessel. Yuna closed her eyes for a moment. At this rate, Earth would fall in less than a week. She needed a miracle, but she did not believe in miracles. Admiral. A civilian rushed into the command center. He was old, maybe 60, with wild gray hair and thick glasses. Admiral Choi, you must listen to me. Who let this man in here? Yuna demanded. I'm Dr. Kang Minho. I teach military history at the university. Please, I have information that could save us. Yuna was about to have him removed, but something in his eyes made her pause. You have 2 minutes. Speak. Dr. Kang pulled out a folder stuffed with old papers. 60 years ago, the military ran a secret project. Project Warhammer. They built an experimental warship called the Tempest. I've never heard of it, Yuna said. Almost nobody has. The project was classified and then buried. The ship was too dangerous. 3 crew members died during the first tests. The government shut it down and hid the ship away. If the ship killed its own crew, how does it help us? Dr. Kang leaned forward. Because that ship had technology 50 years ahead of its time. Weapons that could destroy entire fleets. Armor that could make it invisible. A power source stronger than anything we have today. Yuna looked at the main screen, watching more red dots move toward Earth. Where is this ship? Hidden in an abandoned mining facility in the asteroid belt. I have the coordinates. Dr. Kang placed a data chip on the table. The ship is still there. It's been waiting all these years. Even if we find it, how do we use it? You said it killed its crew, I know. But Admiral, we're going to die anyway. At least this gives us a chance. Yuna picked up the data chip. She thought about her daughter, her grandson, everyone on Earth. They were all counting on her to save them. She had to try everything, even if it seemed impossible. Get me Captain Han Dae-won, she said. 2 hours later, Dae-won stood in front of Admiral Yuna's desk. She had explained everything about the Tempest. Now she looked at him with tired eyes. Captain, I need you to take a team to the asteroid belt. Find this ship. Bring it back online if you can. Admiral, with respect, this sounds insane. A 60-year-old experimental ship? Do you have a better idea, Captain? Dae-won had no answer. He had watched his friends die near Mars. He had seen the Valkyrie weapons cut through Earth's best ships like they were made of paper. The truth was simple. Earth was losing badly. Who else is coming with me? He asked. Lieutenant Park Ji-woo for tactical operations. Engineer Lee Bora for technical work. Corporal Nam Tae-won for security. Dr. Kang will guide you to the location. How long do we have? The Valkyrie fleet will be in position to attack Earth in 72 hours. After that, they'll start destroying our cities. Yuna stood up and walked around her desk. She looked old and tired. Captain, I'm sending you to find a ghost ship that might not even work. But it's the only card we have left to play. Daewon saluted. We'll find it, Admiral, and we'll make it work. I pray you're right. The small transport ship left the orbital station 6 hours later. On board were Daewon, Jiwoo, Engineer Lee Bora, Corporal Nam Taewon, Dr. Kang, and 6 other crew members. They had basic supplies and enough fuel for a round trip to the asteroid belt. Lieutenant Jiwoo sat next to Daewon in the cockpit. She was young, only 25, and this was her first real combat assignment. Sir, do you think we'll find it? The coordinates are good. We'll find the ship. But will it work? Will it be enough? Daewon looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Velkari fleet was moving closer to Earth. Millions of people were looking up at the sky, wondering if they would live to see tomorrow. It has to be enough, he said quietly, because if it's not, humanity is finished. The transport ship accelerated into the darkness of space. Behind them, Earth hung like a blue jewel in the void, beautiful and fragile. Ahead of them lay an abandoned mining facility and a ship that had been buried for 60 years. The clock was ticking. They had 72 hours to find the Tempest, figure out how to use it, and somehow stop an invasion fleet of 300 warships. It was impossible. But sometimes, Daewon thought, impossible was all humanity had left. Engineer Lee Bora worked at her console, studying the old technical documents about the Tempest. The more she read, the more worried she became. This ship was built using technology that should not exist. A power source that used a controlled black hole, weapons that could age matter to dust, armor that could shift between dimensions. This is crazy, she muttered. Corporal Nam Taewon, sitting nearby, looked up. What is? This ship. If half of what these documents say is true, the Tempest is the most dangerous thing humanity ever built. Dangerous to who? Us or the Velkari? Bora didn't answer. She wasn't sure she wanted to know. The transport ship flew through the asteroid belt, dodging rocks and debris. Dr. Kang guided them through the maze of stone and ice. Finally, after 8 hours of travel, they saw it. The mining facility floated in space like a dead city. It had been abandoned for decades. But inside, according to the old records, was the ship that might save them all. Captain Daewon stood up. All crew prepare for docking. We're going in. As the transport ship moved toward the facility's entrance, nobody spoke. They were all thinking the same thing. In 72 hours, the Velkari would begin killing everyone on Earth. Their only hope was a ghost ship that had killed everyone who tried to use it. But hope was still hope, even when it looked like death. The transport ship entered the darkness of the abandoned facility, and the doors closed behind them with a sound like a tomb sealing shut. The Tempest carved through the Velkari fleet like a knife. Captain Daewon was bleeding from his eyes and nose, but he didn't stop. Through the neural interface, he felt every shot, every hit, every kill. The ship was dying. He was dying, but they would take as many enemies with them as possible. Power core at 150%, Engineer Bora shouted. We have minutes before catastrophic failure. 3 Velkari cruisers moved to block the Tempest's path. Daewon didn't slow down. He activated the phase shift one more time, pushing through them like a ghost, then materialized behind them and fired. The cruisers exploded. Lieutenant Jiwoo worked frantically at her console. Captain Earth Forces report they're pushing the Velkari back. The enemy is retreating. Not retreating, Daewon corrected, his voice barely a whisper. Running. They have never faced defeat before. They do not know how to handle it. Corporal Nam Taewon monitored the communications. Sir, Admiral Choi is ordering all Earthships to pull back. The Velkari are preparing to jump to hyperspace. How many Velkari ships remain? 73 of the original 300. Daewon smiled slightly. Over 200 enemy ships destroyed. It was more than he had hoped for. Tell the Admiral to evacuate the combat zone. The Tempest power core is going to explode. What? Jiwoo spun to face him. Then we need to abandon ship. There is no time. The core will collapse in approximately 8 minutes. Get everyone to the escape shuttles. That is an order. I'm not leaving you. Lieutenant, you are now the ranking officer. Take command and evacuate the crew. Engineer Bora moved to the captain's chair. Sir, if someone can stay with you, they can manually eject the core. The ship might survive. The core cannot be ejected. The containment system was damaged when we materialized inside the carrier. If anyone tries to release it now, it will explode immediately. The alarms grew louder. The temperature on the bridge was rising. Day one could feel the quantum singularity at the ship's heart growing unstable. It was like a caged star trying to break free. 7 minutes, he said quietly. Please go, all of you. Bora grabbed her emergency kit. Corporal Nam Taewon began herding the crew toward the shuttle bay. But Lieutenant Jiwoo remained standing next to Daewon's chair. That's an order, Lieutenant, Daewon said. I know, sir. I'm disobeying it. She placed her hand on his shoulder. You taught me that a good officer never abandons their captain. Jiwoo, please. You have your whole life ahead of you. And you have a family waiting for you on Earth. If you can stay and die, so can I. Daewon looked at her. Through the neural interface, he could feel the ship's systems failing one by one. The core temperature was climbing. Reality itself was starting to warp around the containment field. I cannot remove the neural helmet, he said. It is fused to my nervous system. Even if I wanted to leave, I would die disconnecting. But you can still escape. I'm staying. That is foolish. Yes, sir. Very foolish. Engineer Bora returned to the bridge. Captain, everyone else is evacuating. But I'm staying too. If you two are going down with this ship, you're not doing it alone. Daewon tried to argue, but the pain was too intense. The neural interface was burning through his brain. He could barely think anymore. Thank you. Both of you. What do we do now? Bora asked. We wait, and we make sure no Velkari ships follow us into death. The last Velkari vessels were attempting to flee. They had come to conquer Earth with overwhelming force. Now they were running in terror from a single human ship. On Earth, millions watched the battle on their screens. They saw the Tempest, glowing with barely contained energy, chasing the last enemy ships. They saw the alien fleet jumping to hyperspace, desperate to escape. Admiral Choi Yuna watched from her command center. All Earth vessels report status. Admiral, we lost 9 more ships in the final engagement. But the Velkari are gone. We won. Yuna felt tears running down her face. What about the Tempest? Captain Daewon reports his power core is failing. He's ordered all crew to evacuate. Get them out. Get everyone out of that combat zone. The Earth ships retreated at maximum speed. The escape shuttles from the Tempest launched, racing away from the dying warship. But on the Tempest's bridge, 3 people remained. Captain Daewon felt his consciousness starting to fragment. The neural interface was destroying him piece by piece, but through the pain he felt something else. The ship's AI, his partner in this merged existence, was trying to communicate. What is it? He whispered. The AI showed him calculations, possibilities. If the power core exploded here, the blast would damage several Earth ships that were still too close. But if he could move the Tempest further away, everyone would be safe. How much time? 3 minutes. Can we make it far enough? Unknown. But we must try. Daewon forced his eyes open. Lieutenant Engineer, you need to leave now. The ship and I are going to move away from Earth's forces. If we stay here, the explosion will kill thousands. There's no escape shuttle left, Jiwoo said. We sent the last one away. Then hold on tight. This is going to be rough. With the last of the ship's power, Daewon pushed the Tempest away from Earth and its defenders. The quantum engines screamed. Metal groaned. The ship shook like it was tearing apart. Core containment at 5%, Bora reported, gripping her console. 2 minutes to collapse. The Tempest flew deeper into empty space. Behind it, the Earth ships and shuttles grew smaller and smaller. Ahead was nothing but darkness and stars. 1 minute, Bora said. Jiwoo sat down at her station and strapped in. Sir, it's been an honor serving with you. The honor was mine, Lieutenant. Daewon looked at both of them. Thank you for staying. I did not want to die alone. You're not alone, Bora said. You'll never be alone. The power core reached critical mass. The quantum singularity, which had burned for 60 years, finally broke free of its containment. The explosion that followed was visible from Earth. A new star that blazed in the sky for 17 seconds. The Tempest and everyone aboard ceased to exist. On Earth, in Admiral Choi's command center, the screens went dark. The sensor readings flatlined. The officer monitoring the Tempest signals looked up with tears in his eyes. Admiral, the Tempest is gone. No life signs detected. Yuna sat down heavily in her chair. Captain Han Daewon was dead. Lieutenant Park Jiwoo was dead. Engineer Lee Bora was dead. So many others were dead. The price of victory was written in blood, but Earth was safe. The Velkari Empire had been defeated for the first time in their history. Humanity had survived. Send a message to all forces, Yuna ordered, her voice breaking. The battle is over. We won. Earth is saved. Across the planet, people celebrated. They danced in the streets. They hugged strangers. They cried tears of joy and relief. But in the command center, Admiral Una sat alone in the dark, mourning the heroes who had given everything so that others could live. In space, at the coordinates where the Tempest had made its last stand, debris drifted slowly. Pieces of the ship that had saved humanity scattered like ashes on the solar wind, and deep within the largest fragment, something flickered, a faint energy signature barely detectable. A ghost of consciousness that had been a ship, a captain, and an AI merged into one. It watched over the void, a silent guardian standing eternal watch, far away. The Valkyrie survivors reached their home systems and told stories of the human ship that destroyed an empire's fleet. They spoke of Captain Han Daewon with fear and respect. They would never threaten Earth again, and humanity would never forget the sacrifice made in the darkness of space. When one ship and its brave crew faced impossible odds and won. The Tempest flew toward Earth at speeds that should have torn the ship apart, but the quantum engines held everything together perfectly. Inside the bridge, the small crew watched their displays nervously. "Captain, we're moving faster than any human ship in history," Lieutenant Jiwoo reported. "At this rate, we'll reach Earth orbit in 6 hours." Captain Daewon sat in his chair, eyes closed, the neural interface helmet still connected to his head. "The Valkyrie fleet has moved into high orbit. They are positioning for planetary bombardment." "How do you know that?" Jiwoo asked. "I can detect their energy signatures from here. The Tempest sensors are far more advanced than anything Earth has." Daewon opened his eyes. "They will begin firing on cities in 30 hours if no one stops them." Engineer Lee Bora studied her readings. "Captain, I'm worried about the power core. We're running hot. If we push too hard, the containment might fail. The core is stable. I can feel it. Sir, with respect, you've been connected to that interface for 8 hours. You need to disconnect and rest. The ship and I are one now. I do not need rest the way I used to." Jiwoo exchanged worried looks with Bora. Their captain was changing. He spoke differently. He moved differently. Something about him was no longer entirely human. "Contact from Earth Command," Corporal Nam Taewon announced. "Admiral Choi wants to speak with you." Daewon touched the communication panel. Admiral Yuna's face appeared on the screen. She looked exhausted. "Captain, I'm receiving your telemetry. Please tell me you actually found the ship." "We found it, Admiral. The Tempest is fully operational and combat ready. 1 ship against 300. Captain, I need you to be realistic. Can you actually make a difference?" Daewon smiled slightly. "You will see, Admiral. Trust me, the communication ended." Jiwoo moved closer to Daewon's chair. "Sir, are you really planning to attack their entire fleet alone?" "Not alone. Earth still has 31 operational warships. They will support us. 31 ships supporting one? That's backwards, not when that one ship is the Tempest. Hours passed. The ship approached Earth's solar system. Through the neural link, Daewon could sense the Valkyrie fleet ahead. 300 massive warships surrounding Earth like predators circling prey. The Valkyrie commander, Overlord Thorax, sat on his command throne watching Earth. The pathetic human ships had stopped attacking. They knew they were beaten. Soon he would demonstrate the Valkyrie's power by destroying a human city. Then they would surrender. "Overlord, we detect a single human ship approaching," a sensor officer reported. "1 ship?" Thorax laughed. "Ignore it. Prepare the bombardment cannons. Sir, the ship is emitting unusual energy readings. It's not like their other vessels." "It does not matter. 1 ship cannot threaten us." This was the Valkyrie's first mistake. The Tempest entered the battle zone at maximum speed. Lieutenant Jiwoo's fingers flew over her tactical console. "Multiple targets. Enemy ships are surrounding us." "I see them," Daewon said calmly. "Charging entropic cannons, firing." The Tempest's main weapons unleashed a barrage of energy. The beam struck 3 Valkyrie destroyers. The alien ships didn't explode. They simply ceased to exist. The entropic weapons aged their atoms to radioactive dust in seconds. On the Valkyrie command ship, alarms screamed. 3 ships destroyed. What kind of weapon is that? Overlord Thorax stood up from his throne. "All ships destroy that human vessel immediately." 24 Valkyrie warships turned toward the Tempest. Their plasma cannons fired together, enough destructive power to vaporize a moon. "Incoming fire," Jiwoo shouted. "We can't dodge all of it." "We do not need to dodge," Daewon replied. Activating phase shift armor. The Tempest became translucent, ghostly. The plasma bolts passed through the ship like it wasn't there. Inside, the crew felt strange. Their bodies tingled. The air felt thick. What's happening? Bora asked. The ship has shifted partially out of normal space-time, Day One explained. We exist between dimensions. Enemy weapons cannot harm us here, but there was a price. 2 crew members screamed as the gravitational distortions hit them. Corporal Nam Taewan rushed to help them, but Day One, through the neural link, adjusted the field. The pain stopped. Phase shift stable, he announced. Rematerializing in 3, 2, 1. The Tempest became solid again, but now it was inside the Valkyrie formation. At point-blank range, Day One fired the entropic cannons again. 8 more Valkyrie ships turned to dust. Overlord Thorax couldn't believe what he was seeing. How is this possible? 1 ship is destroying our fleet. Overlord recommend we ram them. Our mass will crush them even if our weapons cannot. Do it. All ships ramming speed. 50 Valkyrie warships accelerated toward the Tempest. Each one was massive, weighing millions of tons. They would smash the human ship to pieces. Through his neural link, Day One saw the attack coming 3 seconds before the sensors detected it. They are attempting to ram us. Evasive maneuvers, the Tempest moved like a dancer. The quantum engines pushed beyond their design limits. The ship weaved between capital ships that were 10 times its size, firing continuously. Every shot was perfect because Day One's mind calculated trajectory, enemy position, and firing solution simultaneously. This is incredible, Jiwoo whispered, watching the tactical display. We're untouchable. Not quite, Engineer Bora warned. The power core temperature is rising. We're at 120% capacity. If we keep this up, we'll have a containment failure. How long can we maintain this? Day One asked. 10 minutes, maybe 12. Then we must end this quickly. Lieutenant Jiwoo analysis. Where is their command ship? Jiwoo studied her screens. Center of the formation. That massive carrier. They're protecting it with at least 20 escorts. They are protecting their commander. If he dies, the fleet will fall into chaos. Sir, we can't reach that carrier. Too many enemy ships in the way. Day One's merged consciousness with the ship's AI calculated possibilities. There was one option. Dangerous, possibly fatal, but it might work. We will use the phase shift to penetrate their defensive screen. We will materialize inside the carrier and destroy it from within. Engineer Bora's face went pale. Captain, no. That's insane. If we phase shift into solid matter, the quantum detonation will destroy both ships. The AI and I have calculated the trajectory. We will phase into their hangar bay. It is hollow space. What if your calculations are wrong by even a meter?
We'll all die.
If we do nothing, Earth dies. I will take that risk. The crew was silent. They knew their captain was right. This was humanity's only chance. All crew secure positions, Day One ordered, activating phase shift. This will be uncomfortable. The Tempest vanished from normal space. The Valkyrie fleet fired at empty air. On the command carrier, Overlord Thrax smiled. Did we destroy them? No, sir. They just disappeared. Then where? The Tempest materialized inside the carrier's main hangar bay. Hundreds of Valkyrie fighters and troops stared in shock at the human ship that had appeared from nowhere. Overlord Thorax had 1 second to understand what was happening. Then Captain Day One fired every weapon the Tempest had. Entropic cannons, plasma torpedoes, kinetic accelerators, everything. The command carrier exploded from the inside. The blast was so powerful it looked like a small star being born. The explosion consumed the carrier and 17 ships nearby in a wave of fire and destruction. The Tempest barely escaped the blast. Its armor was scorched. Several systems were damaged, but the ship survived. And across the Valkyrie fleet, chaos erupted. Overlord Thorax was dead. Their command structure was gone. Individual ship captains began making their own decisions. Some tried to retreat. Some attacked wildly. The formation fell apart. Now, Admiral Choi Yuna ordered from Earth. All ships attack. Earth's remaining 31 warships surged forward. They weren't strong enough to fight Valkyrie ships alone, but with the enemy in disarray, they could do damage. They struck at confused enemy vessels darting in and out. Inside the Tempest, alarms blared. Multiple hull breaches, Bora reported. Power core at 140%. Captain, we need to shut down. Not yet, Day One replied. His voice was strained. Blood ran from his nose and ears. The neural interface was burning out his brain, but he held on. We can still fight. Sir, you're dying. Then I will die fighting. All remaining power to weapons. One more strike. Lieutenant Jiwoo grabbed his shoulder. Captain, please. We've done enough. Let's retreat, Daewon looked at her. For a moment his eyes seemed normal again. Human. Tell my family I love them. Then he turned back to the controls and pushed the Tempest forward into the heart of the Velkari fleet, weapons blazing. The mining facility was cold and dark. Captain Daewon led his team through the empty corridors, their flashlights cutting through the blackness. Everything was covered in dust. The air smelled old and dead. According to the map, the ship should be in Dock 7, Dr. Kang said, checking his tablet. They walked for 20 minutes through the abandoned station. Corporal Nam Taewon kept his weapon ready, nervous about what they might find. Engineer Lee Bora scanned for energy signatures with her equipment. I'm getting something, Bora said suddenly. There's power ahead. Very faint, but it's there. After 60 years? Lieutenant Ji Woo asked. The document said the ship had an experimental power source. Maybe it never really shut down. They reached a massive door marked Dock 7 Restricted Access. The lock was old but still functional. Dr. Kang entered the override code from his files. The door opened slowly with a horrible grinding sound. Beyond the door was a space so large they couldn't see the far walls. And floating in the center, held by ancient docking clamps, was the Tempest. The ship was huge. It made their transport look like a toy. The hull was black and angular, covered in armor plates that seemed to absorb their flashlight beams. Strange symbols were carved into the metal. The design was aggressive and frightening. That's our savior, Corporal Nam Taewon whispered. It looks like something from a nightmare. Let's hope it's the Velkari's nightmare, not ours, Daewon replied. They approached the ship carefully. A boarding ramp extended from the side, surprisingly clean despite the decades of abandonment. As they climbed it, emergency lights flickered on inside the ship. The ship knows we're here, Bora said quietly. The interior was pristine. No dust, no decay. The corridors looked like they had been cleaned yesterday, but there were dark stains on some of the walls. Bloodstains from the crew members who had died here 60 years ago. Lieutenant Ji Woo shivered. This place feels wrong. Stay focused, Daewon ordered. We have a mission. They made their way to the bridge. The command center was large, with stations for 20 crew members. In the center was the captain's chair, and above it hung a strange helmet covered in wires and sensors. That's the neural interface, Dr. Kang said. The captain wears it to control the ship directly with their mind. That's what killed the original crew? Ji Woo asked. The first 3 captains, yes. Their brains couldn't handle the information load. The interface overwhelmed them. Engineer Bora began examining the ship's systems. Her team spread out through the engineering sections, checking everything. After 2 hours, she returned to the bridge with her report. Captain, this ship is incredible. The power core is a contained micro-black hole. It's still stable after 60 years. The weapons are unlike anything in our current fleet, and the armor system can make the ship phase out of normal space. Phase out? Daewon asked. Become intangible. Weapons pass right through it, but there's a cost. The phase shift creates gravitational distortions that can kill unprotected crew members. Everything about this ship wants to kill us, Ji Woo said. Not wants to, Dr. Kang corrected. But yes, it's dangerous. That's why it was buried. Daewon walked to the captain's chair and looked up at the neural interface helmet. Can we use the ship without this interface? Technically, yes, Bora answered. But the ship won't perform at full capacity. The weapons need the interface for accurate targeting. The phase shift needs it for safe transitions. Without a neural connection, the Tempest is just a big ship with fancy weapons. And with the interface, the ship becomes an extension of the captain's body. Perfect reaction time. Perfect aim. But the strain on the human mind is enormous. Daewon reached up and touched the helmet. It was cold. The original captains lasted how long? The first died in 30 seconds. The second made it 2 minutes. The third survived for 5 minutes before brain death. Maybe the technology just doesn't work, Ji Woo suggested. Maybe humans can't interface with machines like this. Dr. Kang shook his head. I've read all the technical reports. The interface was improving with each attempt. The ship's AI was learning, adapting. If there had been a 4th test, it might have worked? Might have, Daewon repeated. He looked at his crew. They were all watching him, waiting for orders. How long until the Velkari reach Earth? 57 hours, Ji Woo reported. Then we don't have time for might. We need this ship operational now. Daewon sat down in the captain's chair. I'll try the interface. Sir, no! Ji Woo stepped forward. You could die. We're all going to die if we don't stop the Valkyrie. At least this way I might accomplish something. Engineer Bora moved to the console. Captain, please reconsider. We could try to use the ship without the interface. And we'd lose. You said it yourself. Without the neural connection, this is just another ship. With it, we might have a chance. Daewon looked at each of them. That's an order. Activate the interface. Bora hesitated, then nodded. Yes, sir. But we'll monitor your vitals. If anything goes wrong, we're pulling you out immediately. She lowered the helmet onto Daewon's head. Wires snaked down and connected to ports in the chair. The captain's eyes widened as the system came online. Connection initializing, Bora reported. Neural pathways opening. Captain, can you hear me? Daewon tried to speak but couldn't. His mind was being flooded with information. He could feel the ship. Every system, every wire, every rivet. It was too much. Way too much. He felt like his brain was on fire. His vitals are spiking, Bora shouted. Heart rate at 180. Brain activity off the charts.
Pull him out.
Jiwoo ordered. Wait, Dr. Kang said. Look at the interface readings. Something's different. On the screens, data streamed faster than they could read. Deep in the ship's computer core, something was waking up. The artificial intelligence that had been dormant for 60 years was stirring. The AI had learned from its mistakes. It had spent decades analyzing why the first 3 captains died. It had evolved its protocols, refined its approach. Now, for the first time, it had a chance to test its improvements. It reached out to Daewon's mind, not to overwhelm him, but to merge with him carefully. Daewon felt the change. The pain began to fade. The flood of information became organized, manageable. The ship was no longer attacking his mind. It was becoming part of him. Status? Jiwoo asked nervously. Vital stabilizing, Bora reported amazed. Heart rate dropping to normal. Brain activity high but steady. Captain, are you okay? Daewon's eyes opened. When he spoke, his voice had a strange echo to it, as if 2 people were talking at once. I am functional. The Tempest is ready for operations. Sir, is that you? It is Captain Han Daewon. It is also the Tempest's central intelligence. We are now one entity. He stood up, the helmet's wires stretching. I can feel everything. The power core burning like a star. The weapons waiting to fire. The phase shift generators ready to tear reality. Jiwoo stepped back. This isn't natural. No, Daewon agreed. But natural won't save Earth. We need to go, now. The Valkyrie are getting closer. Engineer Bora checked her console. Captain, we should run tests. Make sure the ship is safe. There is no time for tests. Disconnect the docking clamps. Plot a course for Earth orbit. We have a war to fight. The crew looked at each other nervously, but they moved to their stations. They had come here to find a weapon. They had found something far stranger. Captain Han Daewon was no longer just a man. He was something new, something powerful, something that might be humanity's only hope. The Tempest engines came to life for the first time in 60 years. The ship trembled as power flowed through its systems. The docking clamps released and the massive warship drifted free. All systems optimal, Daewon reported in his echoing voice. Crew, prepare for acceleration. We return to Earth. As the Tempest left the abandoned mining facility, the crew remained silent. They had boarded looking for a ghost ship. They were leaving with a living weapon, and at the helm was their captain, changed forever, ready to face an empire. 3 months after the battle, Earth was a different world. The cities were rebuilding. The orbital stations were being repaired. Life continued, but everyone remembered the day the sky almost fell. Admiral Choi Yuna stood at the window of her office looking up at the stars. She had not slept well since the battle. Every night she saw the Tempest exploding. Every morning she woke up thinking about the people who died saving humanity. Admiral? An aide entered her office. The memorial ceremony begins in 1 hour. Thank you. I will be there. The memorial was built in orbit near where the Tempest had made its final stand. It was a simple structure, a platform with a large piece of the Tempest's hull mounted at its center. Carved into that blackened metal were 15 names. The crew members who had died aboard the ship: Captain Han Daewon, Lieutenant Park Jiwoo, Engineer Lee Bora, Corporal Nam Taewon, and 11 others. Thousands of people attended the ceremony, floating in spacesuits around the memorial. Millions more watched from Earth. When Admiral Yuna spoke, her voice was broadcast across the entire planet. We gather here to remember those who gave everything so that we could live. They faced an enemy that had never been defeated. They flew a ship that had killed everyone who tried to use it. They knew they would probably die. But they went anyway, because that is what heroes do. She paused, looking at the names carved into the metal. Captain Han Dae-won was a soldier for 20 years. He had a wife and 2 children waiting for him at home. He could have retired. He could have hidden. Instead, he volunteered to merge his mind with a machine, knowing it might kill him. And when the end came, he made sure Earth was safe before he died. The crowd was silent except for quiet sobbing. Lieutenant Park Ji-woo was only 25 years old. Her whole life was ahead of her. But when her captain needed her, she stayed. She disobeyed orders to abandon ship because she believed that loyalty was more important than survival. Engineer Lee Bora was the best technical mind in the fleet. She could have escaped. Instead, she chose to stay with her friends and face death with courage. Yuna's voice broke. We owe them everything. We owe them our lives, our future, our children's future, and we can never repay that debt. All we can do is remember and make sure that their sacrifice meant something. After the ceremony, Yuna returned to Earth. She had work to do. Earth's defense fleet needed to be rebuilt stronger than before. The Valkyrie had been defeated, but there were other dangers in the galaxy. She had started Project Tempest 2. Using the data recovered from the original ship, engineers were building new warships based on that design. Safer neural interfaces, more stable power cores, better armor and weapons, but it would take years to complete even one ship. Dr. Kang Minho published a book about the Tempest. He interviewed survivors, studied the technical records, and told the complete story of Project Warhammer. The book became required reading in every military academy. In the introduction, he wrote, "The Tempest was built by humans who feared their own creation. It sat abandoned for 60 years because we thought it was too dangerous to use. Captain Han Dae-won proved that sometimes, dangerous is exactly what you need." The surviving crew members from the Tempest formed a small group. They met once a month to talk about their experiences. Most of them had nightmares. All of them felt guilty for surviving when others died. One crew member, a young engineer named Yoon Dabin, started a foundation to help families of fallen soldiers. She named it the Daewon Foundation. Within a year, it had raised millions to help orphans and widows. But the galaxy was also changing. News of Earth's victory spread across dozens of star systems. Other species who had been conquered by the Valkyrie began to rebel. If humans could defeat the Empire, maybe they could too. The Valkyrie Empire, which had ruled unchallenged for centuries, was suddenly facing wars on multiple fronts. Their fleet was broken. Their reputation was destroyed. Within a year, 5 conquered worlds declared independence. The Valkyrie Emperor, Halan, was furious. He wanted to send another fleet to Earth, 10 times larger than the first. He wanted to destroy humanity completely, but his advisors convinced him otherwise. The humans have that ship, they said. If they built one, they can build more. Attacking them again would be suicide. Instead, the Emperor did something unprecedented. He sent an ambassador to Earth. The ambassador was an old Valkyrie named Korvan. He had fought in 40 wars and seen thousands die. When he arrived at Earth's orbital station, he expected to be met with hatred and anger. Instead, he was met by a young human woman in a military uniform. She introduced herself as Commander Park Mira, sister of Lieutenant Park Ji-woo, who had died on the Tempest. "Follow me," Mira said coldly. "Admiral Choi will see you." As they walked through the station, Korvan saw humans working to repair damage from the battle. He saw memorials with names of the dead. He saw children in schools learning about the war. "Your people fought well," he said to Mira. "My sister died well," Mira replied. "There is a difference." They reached Admiral Yuna's office. The old admiral looked tired but strong. She gestured for the ambassador to sit. "You have come to negotiate peace?" Yuna asked. "The Emperor wishes to establish diplomatic relations. The war is over. The war you started. The war where you came to conquer us." "Yes." Korvan met her eyes. "I will not pretend otherwise. We came to conquer Earth. We failed. Now we seek peace. Why should we trust you? You should not. But consider this. If we wanted to continue fighting, we would send warships, not ambassadors. The Valkyrie Empire has learned a lesson. Humanity is not weak. You are dangerous, and dangerous enemies become either allies or eternal problems." Yuna leaned back in her chair. "What does your Emperor propose?" "A treaty. We leave Earth alone. You do not interfere in Valkyrie space. We exchange ambassadors and establish trade relations. That is all. No punishment for the people you killed? What punishment would satisfy you? We lost over 200 ships and 30,000 soldiers. Is that not enough blood? Yuna was quiet for a long time. Finally, she spoke. I will present your proposal to Earth's government. But know this. If your empire ever threatens us again, we will not send one ship. We will send 50, and they will not stop until your empire is dust. Korvan nodded slowly. I believe you. And so does my emperor. That is why he seeks peace. The treaty was signed 6 months later. It was not a friendship, but it was an end to open warfare. The Velkari Empire and Earth established embassies on each other's worlds. Trade began cautiously, but neither side trusted the other. Earth continued building new Tempest-class warships. The Velkari watched nervously. 2 years after the battle, the first new ship was completed. It was named the Hyundai 1. Command was given to Admiral Park Mira, who had spent those 2 years learning the neural interface technology her sister had died using. When Mira sat in the captain's chair and connected to the ship's AI, she felt her mind expand. She understood what her sister had experienced. The rush of power, the merger of human and machine, the terrible price of that connection. Captain, how do you feel? Asked her executive officer. I feel ready, Mira replied. Ready to protect Earth, ready to honor those who died, ready to make sure their sacrifice was not wasted. The Hyundai 1 launched from Earth orbit and took its position as guardian of the home system. Behind it, 3 more Tempest-class ships were under construction. Humanity had learned a hard lesson. They were not alone in the galaxy, and not everyone was friendly. But they had also learned that they could fight. They could win, and they would never surrender. 10 years later, Earth was a major power in the galaxy. 15 Tempest-class warships patrolled human space. Humanity had colonies on 6 worlds and alliances with a dozen alien species. The Velkari Empire had fractured. Some systems remained loyal to the Emperor, but others had broken away to form independent nations. The empire that had seemed unstoppable had been broken by one human ship and its brave crew. On the anniversary of the battle, Admiral Yuna, now old and ready to retire, visited the memorial one last time. She floated in her spacesuit looking at the names carved in metal. Captain Day-1, she said quietly. We kept the watch. Earth is safe. Your sacrifice meant something. Rest well, all of you. Rest well. In the darkness of space, at the coordinates where the Tempest had exploded, sensors still occasionally detected faint energy readings. Engineers said it was just residual radiation, but some people believed differently. They believed that a part of Captain Han Day-1 remained, merged forever with the ship's AI, watching over humanity from the void, a guardian in the darkness, a reminder that sometimes the greatest weapon is not technology or firepower. Sometimes, the greatest weapon is the courage to face impossible odds knowing you will die, but doing it anyway so that others can live. The Empire's fleet had fallen to Earth's abandoned prototype warship, and in the process humanity had risen to take its place among the stars, no longer victims but survivors, warriors, and heroes. The legend of the Tempest would be told for centuries, and every time a new ship launched, every time a new captain took command, they would remember the 15 who died so that billions could live. That was the legacy of the Tempest. That was the gift of Captain Han Day-1 and his crew. They had saved humanity, and humanity would never forget.